citizens of the Grateful Nation, you are now tuned in to the most throttled show on YouTube. I would tell you to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, but we all know that that doesn't do any good, which is why we're going to be moving to censored.tv pretty soon. We're getting that set up. Big thanks to Gavin McInnes for having us on. We are going to have a weekly show over there at some point in the near future, right, Gina?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's sell some ads for the people that care about us, and we care about them. Guys, please go to sonorandefense.com. Sonoran Defense Technologies. They do awesome custom Glock stippling work. They sell cool accessories. I actually just sent off one of my Glock 19s to them. I'm going to get it back. I actually got this exact package, the hybrid package. Look how cool that is. The nippling and the, I don't even know what you call this. I like to call it like grip tape or sandpaper tape because that's what it feels like on your hand. It feels awesome. Go to sonorandefense.com.
That's from our buddy.
Wait.
I can't believe we're missing that.
Oh, they're talking about it now? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry for that interrupt. We just got some breaking news. Guys, so go to sonorandefense.com, use code IDG10 to get 10% off. Moving forward, let's go to nimiskincare.com. We're still waiting on some products. Gina is like really waiting on eggshells to show you. She's really waiting to get some Nimi skincare products so she can talk to you about how good they are and how good of a company they are to support.
I even love the packaging. Look at that.
I know. They don't support the wokeness. They don't support any of that stuff. Go to nimiskincare.com. There is a description, a link in the description that gives you some sort of discount. Van Man Collection. Good company, no discount. Listen, so what I did was I actually got some of the eggshell tooth powder, you know, volcanic ash, the activated coconut or the activated charcoal or coconut charcoal or whatever it is. And I got to tell you, it's really, really interesting at first. It's not good. The taste of it is not good. So don't go for taste, but it cleans your teeth. Your teeth feel really good, really smooth after. And I bought some of their peppermint mouthwash after to get rid of that awful taste that the volcanic ash leaves behind. But seriously, it's really worth it. I'm glad that I actually went out and got some. So go to vanman.shop and get some cool stuff because they are fans of the show and we're fans of them. And now that I've actually used the product. Guys, go to imdoingmerch.com. Look at this. This is a new t-shirt up here. Religious, not spiritual. Because I'm tired of hearing people say, oh, well, I'm pretty spiritual, but I'm not religious. Gay and boring.
Boo.
Religious, not spiritual. Get it now. We had a Black Friday sale. A lot of you missed out. And yeah, guys, please go to imdoingmerch.com. Support the show. Do something good with your lives. Gina and I are here right now. And what's going on right now, obviously, it's Friday. You guys are watching this. But today, was a really interesting episode of InfoWars Alex Jones currently has on Ye and Nick Fuentes. It's been a fantastic episode. I'm sure you're seeing clips on Twitter, on Instagram floating around, and how Ye says that he loves the Nazis, he loves Hitler, all this kind of stuff, which is actually kind of brilliant the way he phrases it. But I wanted to get into a little bit of a rant, and while Gina's on the phone and conversing with people about what's happening now,
I do want to hear this rant.
I have a rant about our good buddy Fick Nuentes, and you know, I hope you people clip this out, send it to him. I don't want to do that because then it would seem self-serving. But I just wanted to say this: Fick, Nick, we love you here at I'm Doing Great. We're going to continue to support you.
Yes.
There are a lot of people, who watch our show that have fallen off the Fick train and who don't support you, who still maintain that you're a white supremacist. Just whatever ridiculous allegation that they have against you. And one comment that I received yesterday, because we were posting about Fick a bunch over the weekend because he's working with Ye now. And he said, I can't stand Nick because he seems like he's just a total hypocrite. You know, the guy talks about men and men needing to be important, but the dude, he's not married and he doesn't talk well about women and he doesn't lift weights, all this kind of stuff. And it's something that you said over the past, over the last weekend, where you said there are certain people in the conservative movement who talk a lot of shit and don't do anything for men. Mm-hmm. They talk about this alpha mindset. They talk about this conservative mindset, and they don't do anything about it. But you have someone like Andrew Tate, who's clearly not on the right, but he actually takes the time to help motivate and make men better. And this is something that just because Nick doesn't fucking lift, or just because Nick isn't married, or just because he doesn't want to talk about getting married right away, like the dude is 24, he's busy, he has a whole movement that he is in charge of and that he is running. And if that doesn't say anything about him trying to help men, then I don't know what does. And the whole thing about he doesn't look like he doesn't lift, like, what does that mean? And I told him, I'm like, that is the most womanish sort of comment to make about another man, is about the way he looks or his physique. When I started the men's group, we have overweight dudes in the men's group. We have small guys in the men's group, but that's not why they're part of the men's group. They're part of the men's group because they want to become better men, and they want to surround themselves with men who want to motivate each other. And that's what we do. You go to the idgmensclub.com or locals.com or whatever. But, and you know, in the men's group, there's so many different opinions. And one guy called me out for the Fuentes stuff, just like on Instagram. And I believe it was because I called Tim Pool, like, oh, he's such a whiny fag or something like that. And he's like, do you think you should really be calling someone a fag? And I was like, well, you know what? I'm not going to be police on how to talk. And then the other guys in the group kind of started to jump on him. And I said, you know what? Wait a minute. The men's group is about being honest, and it's about speaking your mind. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate that guy who said, do you think you should have said that? Because it gets me thinking about things. And it gets me to reevaluate maybe what I say or what I think. Not that it's going to change what I say or what I think, but I think a very important part about being a man, one of the most essential parts of it, because not every man is married. Not every man has a child. Not every man has children. But what a man does have is his voice. And the most important thing a man can be is be honest. And not to hide, behind any false facade or follow the crowd. Be honest. Say what you feel, even if you know you're going to have a group of people who call you, whatever, who call you not a man because of the way you look. And that's just part of my rant on Fick. I also wanted to say, anyone who calls him a white nationalist or white supremacist is supremely retarded. It takes a really bad or really, really well self-controlled white supremacist to be walking around with Ye. It really does, because a white supremacist, you can't even put him next to a black person because you see them sweating and you see, the visible disgust. Nick is not like that. I mean, back in March on this show, I asked him straight up, hey, what kind of music do you like? Without hesitation, Kanye West, he says.
Yeah.
Nick says Kanye West.
That's right. And
Nick is just, I just wanted to go on this rant because Nick says we need to be putting Jesus Christ first. What happens? What does Kanye say? We need to be putting Christ first. You don't hear any conservative, any mainstream conservative saying that. You hear a couple of pundits maybe saying that. Michael Knowles, God bless his name. Michael Knowles will say it every now and then. But you don't even hear Trump saying it. And all you Trump stans want to get around, especially all you fake trad kids who want to talk about how much you love Catholicism. You suck at the teat of a guy who doesn't even say the words Jesus Christ. And that really bothers me. That bothers me to no end. And, I just want to get behind Nick because I don't like seeing a guy like that who likes chicken tendies, who takes the time to hang out with me and takes the time to send a text message back, while he's so busy. I like that guy. He's an admirable guy. I like what he's doing. I respect what he's doing. And, every allegation against him is just bunk. It's false. Doesn't make any sense. It's born out of pure jealousy and projection about insecurity, and I don't like it. What do you have to say about Fick?
I have a lot to say about Fick. I just want to say I love Fick. We love Fick Nuentes. We are behind him. I'm very inspired by that young man, and I almost wish that I knew more of him earlier because I wish that I were able to support him earlier.
Yeah, same. What a bummer.
I discovered him on Twitter, and even back then, he had already been semi-canceled, and I thought he was hilarious. I saw all the out of context clips on Twitter. I thought it was really funny. And I just started looking at his content more and more, and I started being very intrigued by it. But when he first came on our show, that's when I started watching his show, America First. And I am so sick and tired of all of these mainstream conservatives acting like they know who Nick Fuentes is without ever watching his show.
Yeah.
I literally see people on Twitter say, friends of ours, people that we know personally, people that we have worked with, who say things like, so I've heard about this Nick Fuentes guy and I decided to look into him. I watched a ton of clips and I have come to the conclusion that he's a real racist. I'm like, oh, you watched clips? Oh, you watched some clips? You sound like a fucking leftist who created some opinion about Trump by watching what CNN said about him.
Yeah.
And it makes me so deeply angry for a lot of reasons. Number one, because I don't think that people understand how politically persecuted that young man is. The government has seized his funds. He's not allowed to put his money in any banks. He has sacrificed so much in the last couple of years, and he still gets on almost every single night. He does his show. He comes with the joy of Christ. He makes jokes. He laughs. He interacts with a lot of the people in his community and his movement, and he still shows up every single day. And I am sure he talked about it in his live stream last Saturday. He opened up. I mean, he's been opening up to his audience for a while about what he's been going through. But he said, he's like, I don't think anybody really understands what I've been through the past 2 years. We don't. I mean, we know a little bit, but the people very close to Nick understand what he's been through. And I can see glimpses of it, and it breaks my heart. Almost like, in a way, as a mom, like if Nick were my son, I would be so deeply upset watching a young man who loves Christ, who has devoted his life to not only Jesus and the Christian faith, but to America. And he has sacrificed so much to tell the truth. And he said on his show, he said, I made an intentional decision years ago to tell the truth, even in ways, especially in ways that most conservatives are way too afraid to do. 99% of conservatives who claim that they're pro-America, pro-free speech, whatever, they are terrified to even touch the topics with a 10-foot pole that Nick talks about all the time. And even more than that, he's brilliant. He's incredibly well-read. He's very smart and intelligent. And when he came to, I forgot if it was the first or second time he was on our show, it was Bryson's birthday.
Yeah, I think it was the second time.
Bryson Gray, for all of you who don't know, conservative rapper, huge platform. And so my husband and I happened to go over to Bryson's house, and there were a bunch of people over there, and Nick was there. And he's just like, outside of the setting of work and content and politics, he's just really a delightful guy.
He really is.
He really is.
We went and got the chicken tendies.
He talks on his show. He always jokes about, he's like, I'm America's sweetheart. I'm just a sweetie. I'm just a sweet guy. And that's literally what he is. He's just such a genuine guy who he loves people. He loves America. And I'm so sick and tired of seeing his name being smeared by the very people who have cried for years about the left doing the same thing to Trump and to them. Yeah. And so we want to say that we support Nick, and I'm sure that this is probably going to get us even more throttled on YouTube. People are going to hate us. I've had people that I know personally come out and be mad at me because I support Nick. I don't care. I don't care what he says about women. If he makes jokes about women being less important than men, I really just don't care.
The fact of the matter is that he's right. Like, everything that he talks about, whether it be, certain demographics who make up a small amount of the population commit, a higher amount of violent crimes, he's just right about that. Doesn't make him racist. If he talks about, women, doesn't make him a misogynist if he's right.
He's
if he
also
talks about
right.
Roles and stuff.
The way that he talks about women a lot, he's right. He says that a woman finds her meaning by being attached to a man and his purpose.
Oh yeah, well, he's not married, so he can never say anything like that.
Did you see the clip that they were all sharing this past week about he's less gay than the people who have sex with women? Did you see that clip?
No.
Okay, so this is the clip. And I actually, people think that he's an idiot for saying this. So during a stream, he was talking about people criticizing him for not having a relationship with women. Yeah. And they're like, you're so gay because you haven't had sex with a woman. You haven't had a relationship with a woman. And he's like, that actually makes me less gay. Yeah. That actually makes me less gay. Yeah. I've had sex with fewer women than a lot of gay dudes have. And he says it's actually less gay to not have sex with women. And then he said it's gay to have sex with women. It's gay to sleep around. And people are like, oh, this guy's such an incel, he's such a retard. But you know what Nick is saying?
Yeah.
Contraceptive sex. That's what he's talking about.
Yes.
It is gay.
It is gay.
To have contraceptive sex because that might as well be two dudes banging.
Right, exactly.
And so what he's actually talking about is the fact that he's saving himself for marriage, which is extremely admirable.
Yeah.
How many of you guys are able to do that? Very few of us.
How many of you guys did that?
Probably
very, very few.
Probably very few of you listening.
It's a horrible hedonist.
And so he talks a lot about how he doesn't have sex with women, and it's actually gay to have sex with women. And people think that, it's so funny. But all the AF people are commenting, they're like, you don't realize that he's talking about contraceptive sex, which is gay.
Brilliant, yeah.
So he's not participating in contraceptive sex where you throw on a condom or use birth control, you bang a bunch of women, like that's gay.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the things that Nick says too, people take it out of context and they think that he's just being outrageous or a misogynist or whatever. But like a lot of the times, if you really think about what he's saying, it makes sense.
I like that stream a lot. I like the fact that he says, I love Trump, but I think it's probably time for him to step aside. I like that. I agree with it. I identify with it. Also, Nick's not one of these, at least I don't think so. I don't think he's one of these free speech absolutists.
No.
I don't. I hate that when I hear people say, I'm a free speech absolutist. Okay. No, I'm not. I believe that
so we should get rid of defamation?
Right, exactly. Not only that, but it's just like, well, pornography, especially child pornography, is protected under the First Amendment. And if you think that either talking, just benefiting or even talking about or being in the business of child pornography should be something that I'm an absolutist about, no, I think you should be in jail, put under the jail, better yet. I'm not a free speech absolutist. I don't think you just get to say whatever you want. No.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. People don't understand what free speech
should be like decency laws.
means.
Bring those decency laws back.
Please do. Yeah.
Is twerking in front of a child outside of a bar during drag queen story hour? That's covered under free speech. No way. I want those guys under the bar.
And even when Nick was on the show today or yesterday with Alex and Ye and even Owen and Ali Alexander were on, Nick was talking a lot about how the most important thing in order to turn this country around is to return to Christ.
Right.
So Laura Loomer came on the call for a few minutes and she was
I love how they call her. She's a Zionist Jew, American Jew, but she loves, I thought it was pretty funny.
It was.
She loves Ye.
And so Alex was saying, they were talking about the importance of free speech, and Alex was like, what if we have like a party of the Bill of Rights, like a third party?
And he was like, no.
And Nick was like, no, we don't need that. We need Christ. And Alex didn't do this in a malicious way, but he kind of like dismissed it and changed the subject.
Yeah.
I just want to say that there are, as far as I can tell, I may be wrong, correct me, I don't think there are any conservative Christian podcast hosts that are still on YouTube who will give Nick and Ye a seat and talk very intensely about the importance of Christian values in America. Because as far as I know, I don't think Alex is a practicing Christian.
No.
Tim Pool is definitely not.
No.
I don't think that there are any practicing Christians who are still platformed that would be willing to give Ye and Nick a voice and talk seriously about what it means to return to a Christian nation.
Well, I think that there probably are some, but I think they may call themselves Christians, but I don't think they're are just practicing. Based on not practicing or just based on, what their lifestyle is like. I don't think that they are. And listen, even Ye said on the interview, he said, what are my policies? Either Christ said yes or he said no. Either Christ said do that or Christ said don't do that. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, that's what we were talking about the foundation of American laws based on Christian morals.
We got to get Ye back to traditional Christianity, though. That's the thing.
Are you talking about like Catholicism or Orthodoxy?
Yeah, we need
well, he said it multiple times on the show. He's like, well, Nick's a good Catholic, so I think he doesn't like me calling Jesus Yeshua or Yahweh or whatever it is.
Yeah, you could tell they joke about it. But I think very seriously.
And a lot of you have implored us, begged us. Like I told you, I didn't make it up. It may have been more, but I woke up to like 30 DMs saying you got to get Nick back on the show, get him with Ye. It's like, it's really easy to say that. It's a lot harder to execute. So, I mean, like we said, text messages have been sent out, and they're doing the rounds on media and on shows. So who knows? They could be here or in the new studio that we're going to. Oh yeah, we're leaving the studio.
Oh yeah, we're leaving the studio, guys. Say bye bye. I mean, not quite yet, but soon.
Not quite yet, but soon. Probably within a month or so. Also, guys, the God is Great panel is happening in 9 days now. So get your tickets. Just an important reminder, because we are not selling tickets at the door. You have to buy your tickets online, put it on your phone, be like, hey, look, I bought a ticket.
I'm really excited.
I'm really excited for that too. I think more people, I was actually talking to people and relaying that information, like, don't wait to buy tickets because you can't buy them at the door. And people say, I'm only waiting because I want to see how many people I could bring with me. And I was like, ooh, that's nice.
That'd be great.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, I've got potentially 3 people locally who are going to buy tickets soon.
Oh, cool. I spoke to David Gordon on the phone, who's going to be one of our speakers. And we had about an hour-long conversation just about Catholicism. I'm like, wait, we have to save this for the panel. It's really, really interesting. Yeah. I went to my first Latin Mass. yesterday morning.
Oh, you're first, really?
Yeah.
I've been to a couple. What did you think?
Well, it was a low mass. So a low mass, no incense, no choir, even though there can be songs during the entrance and exit of the priest, and only one, I forget what they call him, but like assistant to the priest. So no deacon or subdeacon, but like an altar boy or whatever.
That's the one I went to as well.
It's very, very solemn, and it's what I've been looking for, and it's very quiet. But you go in there, and 90% of the women had veils.
Yeah.
You go in there, and everybody genuflects when they sit down. That's when you kneel before you sit down. And the sort of organization of the mass is very, very interesting, because I know a lot of the prayers, because when I'm saying them in Latin at home, especially during the rosary, I'm like, okay, I know what that is, but I didn't have what's called the missal, or I didn't have a guide to the Latin mass, so I was kind of lost on wait, what are people doing now? Okay, they're beating their heart and they're saying mea culpa, mea culpa. And I say, oh, they're saying the Confiteor, or I know when they're saying the Hail Mary, or I know when they're saying the Glory Be. And it's awesome, but a lot of the prayers, especially during the Eucharist, when the priest is getting ready to the Eucharist, I forget what they call that, what it's nominally called, but there's a lot of silence. So he's speaking the prayers, but not out loud. So it's just very reverent. And I do like the incense. So I think the next one I want to go to is the High Mass, or the Sung Mass, Solemn High Mass, or whatever you call it. But I think it's going to be the new church. They are renovating, and it's the same one Michael Knowles goes to, funny enough. But they are renovating the main church because it was damaged by a tornado of last 2 years ago, 2020.
We got to get Michael
And
on the show,
Michael was on the Pints with Aquinas podcast talking about this, so it's not like I'm leaking out his church. But we toured after the Mass. The priest said, I'm going to go across the street because they put in some new stained glass, and it's the first time I'm seeing it. That church is going to be beautiful. And it's what I've been looking for. And David's actually going to talk about this at the panel, because I was like, yeah, the Novus Ordo, I don't know if I can really get into it. And he's like, well, I'm a big advocate of the Novus Ordo, but in a different way than a lot of people might think. I don't necessarily like the music. I don't like a lot of what's going on, but having the Novus Ordo in the vernacular of the public is a great thing, because it gets more people at church. I think what turns a lot of people off is the songs and the sort of lack of reverence that there is. Where I think if the Latin Mass was replicated exactly the way it is, but was in English, I would like that. You know what I mean? Because I could follow that, I could do that. But, homilies are 10 to 15 minutes long. They don't necessarily have to do with anything that's going on currently, or anything that was really going on in the gospel reading. The people taking the sacrament with their hands, the Eucharist with their hands, and just, the homily that this priest gave was 10 minutes max, and it was about St. Andrew, because I believe it was the Feast of St. Andrew yesterday. And it was quick, it was to the point, and then he went right back into it, and I love that. I was like, replicate everything, just change it to English. I would love it, especially when, the incense and the singing comes around, because we were at the first day of Advent. I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry. We were at the first day of Advent, and this past Sunday, and this lady started singing, and I told Carl, I'm like, what? Because she looked over and she started laughing, and I said, what? And she's like, you don't look happy. I'm like, what is this? What is this singing? It's like, what is that? Is this what, any of the prior popes thought of, that this was like, this would get people at church? It was performative.
What was she singing?
She was, I don't know, she was singing some hymns, but or some psalms, and she was just, like, it just,
like that.
I didn't like it. There's a cello, there's a guitar, there's a piano. Give me an organ at most. I want chanting, and I want incense.
Yeah.
And, at the parish that I'm at now, God bless them, it's not a fit. After this low mass, I was like, this is where we're going to go.
Okay.
We're going to get Roman baptized at the parish that we're at now. But after that, I'm gone, baby.
Yeah. Where we're going now, they don't have any instruments.
Yeah, great.
Which is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been really enjoying, I mean, I think I said the name before. I'm not going to say it again.
Yeah, you don't have to say it again.
Yeah, but we've been really enjoying it. It's really humbling, because you walk in and you think to yourself, wow, this is the ancient Christianity that people practiced right after Christ
most of it
rose
was
from the
we were
dead.
kneeling most of the time in this Latin Mass. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I went ahead and I ordered a Latin Rite Missal, which I guess is kind of like a guide to the Latin Mass based on what day of the week you're going. It's this huge, like 800-page book, but it has prayers in both English and Latin.
Yeah.
And then I ordered like a guide to the Latin Mass, which just specifically has the prayers that you say. And it was interesting because we would kneel facing the altar, stand up, and I was kind of there like, I don't know if you can see, I was kind of there like this. I was not pretending, but I was praying, but I would look around when people were doing stuff so I know to do it because this is my first time there.
Yeah.
But people would then pray, if you're facing noon, people would kind of pray, go 10 o'clock. They would pray off at an angle. I was like, oh, get on their knees, stand up. And I was like, this is very interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot, everything that goes on in the Orthodox Church we're at right now, we don't know. We don't get it. We're totally confused.
The Orthodox, especially with the sacrament, they go into a different room, right? Like, aren't they kind of in the back?
There's a back area that they'll come back and forward and back and forward. It's all really confusing. And it's also even more confusing because I have to take care of my daughter during the whole service. So I'm in and out, and her nap schedule, her first nap is directly in the middle of the service. So I have to leave for like 30 to 45 minutes most of the time. So it's tough, but a sort of like internet friend of mine who recently converted to Orthodoxy, she was like, you're honoring God by taking care of your child. Yeah. So cause I feel bad. I'm like, I feel like I should be in there, but I'm there.
You're there.
And my husband and I are totally confused, but we're learning.
Yeah.
And it's really humbling to think that, this is the work that it takes to participate fully in the blood and the body of Christ.
That's why I appreciate the works.
And it really is. And there's a discipline in ancient Christianity. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to learning more about fasting and the role that fasting plays in traditional Christianity. And it's there really is a lot of humility there that I'm going to say anecdotally that I never observed in any Protestant church. And that humility, I think it really, you come face to face, you participate in the blood and the body of Christ, and you come face to face with what Christ intended for his church and for his body. Yeah. And I'll never forget when Brian was on, he was like, when I go to church, I literally eat God. Yeah. And when he said that, I was like, whoa. I'm like, I'm very much looking forward to eating God, because we can't participate yet in the sacraments because we're not confirmed in the church, and it will happen. It will come. Yeah. And I'm very much looking forward to that. And it feels like, it really does feel like we're approaching home. Yeah. And I know that Catholics say that a lot too. They say, welcome home. Oh yeah. And it feels like we're getting closer and closer to approaching home. And like, I see there are a lot of young families there, and it's so nice to see a lot of kids and young parents. And just to think that could be the place where my daughter grows up. Yeah. It's really exciting. Another interesting thing about Latin Mass is that, when you get communion in a Novus Ordo Mass or at a parish like that, everybody kind of stands up, gets in a line, and it's almost like they're going in a line at like an open food cafeteria. They're just all walking behind each other, waiting, putting their hands out. But at the Latin Mass, there's up at the altar where the priest is, there's kind of like a little fence, but like a wooden fence. It's small. It has a gate that you can open, but it also has a step that has been converted into like a full kneeler. So one group of people in an aisle, they get up and they all kneel down at the gate. So it really is a communion. You're not just on a conveyor belt of a line, and you sit there, kneel, only take it by the mouth. And the priest, instead of 80-year-old Carol who's a Eucharistic minister, and she'll give you the body of Christ, amen. It's the priest who signs the cross with the Eucharist, and boom, and then the assistant holds the little plate under. It's just, I don't want to be thought of as someone who's going to church for the aesthetic symbolism or sort of reverence aspect of it, but those things all play a very big part in my relationship and in how I feel. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like Shia said, I don't feel like I'm being sold a car. I feel like I am in the presence of God when I am at this type of Mass. So I want to keep on experiencing that. And, the Novus Ordo is a great introductory step to someone who's unfamiliar with Catholicism. I mean, do you want to take them, right into the Latin Mass? Probably not. They'll be very confused. They won't be able to have a grasp of what's going on. They're like, what's happening now? Well, he's actually doing a reading from the Old Testament. What's happening now? Well, now it's from the New Testament, but it's from a letter probably from Paul. What's happening now? Now it's the Gospel. That's a reading from probably Luke or John. And they won't know. But, the Novus Ordo in the vernacular, it makes a little bit more sense. You can kind of see the structure of a Mass. But when you step up to the Latin Mass, it's a totally different game. And, I really do like it a lot. And, let's talk about Nazis for a second. Oh, wait, hold on. Jews, Nazis, and Hitler. Jews and Nazis. Let's see. Okay. Our good friend Sav is updating me on what's happening on InfoWars right now because we had to stop watching the show so we could film this show. And so
Kanye is now denying the Holocaust.
bro, what did Nick tell him?
Oh my God. Wait, is this Hernandez?
Yeah.
Okay, Sav Hernandez.
Yeah.
I thought it was a different Sav.
Oh,
okay,
no,
okay.
our Sav.
Yeah.
I mean, she's our Sav
right,
too.
she is.
But the show Sav.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty funny. But no, what Kanye was saying, a lot of people are going to be obviously DMing us, well, what did he say about Hitler? He did say he likes Hitler. He did say he loves Hitler. He says he loves Nazis. And what you had said before and what I had said is like, yeah, Jesus Christ commands us to love everybody. It's very hard. It's a very difficult thing to do. But Jesus never once says to hate your neighbor or to hate another person in the world. I don't think he does that. So Kanye is playing, not that he's playing right along, but I think he is exemplifying the word of Christ when he's saying, yeah, I love Hitler. Yeah, I love it. He says, I love everybody.
And then say what you told me before we started.
Well,
about-
what was interesting about that is that, especially people like Lex Friedman, who was grilling Ye, was saying, well, how come you can't lump all Jews into this sort of anti-Semitic mindset that you have. And when Alex Jones was pressing on him, he's like, well, you clearly don't like Nazis. And he's like, I'm sure there were some great Nazis. I'm sure there were some really good Nazis who were fighting for their country. You see what I'm playing into, Alex? I can't throw all Nazis into the same bag. There were probably some good Nazis who were fighting for their country. And I'm saying, probably right. Ye's probably right.
Bye, guys. That's our last episode for sure.
It is, but it is a very difficult conversation to have and to wrap one's head around the idea of, let's say, loving a Nazi or liking Nazis. Now, Nazism, I think, is a completely different thing when you talk about the individual people who were involved in that, because a lot of the people during the rise of Nazism in the 30s. Communism is a little bit different. But let's say the chattel slavery in the United States or the civil rights movement, Jim Crow, let's say. For people, they always pose this question they always have this answer like, oh, well, if I was alive in 1955 and I was living in Mississippi, I wouldn't be racist. Oh, would you?
Lol.
No, I don't think so.
Lol.
I don't think so because, people say, oh, if I was alive in 1936 in Germany, I wouldn't have been a Nazi. Oh, you think so? You really don't think so? And
you couldn't even refuse the vaccine.
Yeah, people like Jordan Peterson, they like to say, well, think again, honey, because you would have been, and you would have been next in line to Hitler. And he's right. Communism's a little bit different because I don't think they really allow you to become a really good communist or rise up in the party, as to say. But I think it's big cognitive dissonance to say, well, I wouldn't have been a Nazi, or if I was, I would have turned it around. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
You don't. Yeah.
And sort of kind of Ye's flipping it on their heads, and he's talking about, yeah, I love Nazis, so what?
And,
what are you going to do?
And Nick was, from what I saw, I mean, I'm sure he still was, Nick was brilliant on InfoWars yesterday, whatever. And he was explaining, which we have talked about, I think, a little bit on social media and stuff, about the Judaism that we see today is not the Judaism that we saw when Christ entered the world.
Right. It's not, there was no Talmudic teachings back then.
Yeah,
it was the Torah.
Rabbinical, it's like rabbinical oral tradition. Yes, exactly.
Go read the and listen, I said this in my thing with Angel. I don't know if you guys saw, but it's on there.
That poor guy.
I found out that my father's father, so my great-grandfather on my father's side, so not his mother, not my grandmother, but my grandfather's, was a Talmudic scholar. I found this out, and I said, whoa, that's really interesting. And I was like, oh, I wish I would have met him now, just to be like, okay, how can you explain this part of the Talmud that says it's okay to rape a girl under 3 years old because it's as if you're poking her in the eye? It says that. I forget which book it is, but you can go look that up.
He posted that.
There's part of the Talmud that says if you murder a man with 10 other people, it's fine because it must have been righteous. I'm paraphrasing, but murder is okay, rape is okay, sodomy is okay.
Nick said today that if you accidentally kill a Gentile,
then it's okay. It's no skin off your back.
Yeah, that's not immoral.
So it's sort of antithetical to the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Definitely.
Right. And what I want to say, like, because Savannah was like, oh, now Ye's totally denying the Holocaust or whatever it was. Which, I mean, guys, I guess we're off YouTube at this point. But a lot of people don't know is that what I want to say, and this is going to come off as hugely quote unquote anti-Semitic, which really doesn't even mean anything. Why is it? Because we used to say this a lot about black people when it comes to slavery. Oh, like, do black people have a monopoly on grief or on suffering or on oppression? Why is it all of a sudden that Jews have a monopoly on oppression or on genocide when it comes to the Holocaust? Like, do you know that 100,000 Catholics were murdered at Auschwitz? No one knows this. There's a canonized saint in our church, Maximilian Kolbe, who sacrificed his life for other Jews and was canonized, became a saint. No one really knows that.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about that.
It's funny you say that.
And I'm not mad. I'm not like, because it's very weird. I know people who know me will be like, you're denying your Jewish roots and you seem to hate your Jewish roots. I don't listen. If my Talmudic great grandfather didn't exist, I wouldn't be here. If my grandfather didn't exist, I wouldn't be here. I don't hate them. I question what they taught and what they believed in. That's it. And I question mainstream Judaism as being the only people who can be upset about something.
Yeah, I was texting Sav about this right before I walked in here. We were talking about how nobody gets to have a monopoly on suffering and grief and genocide and whatever it is. And I was texting Sav. I was like, my grandmother escaped communist North Korea when she was 18 years old, had to run zigzag through minefields.
Yeah.
I've told the story before. And when the Japanese took over her country when she was a little girl, her siblings were taken, like 11, 12-year-old girls were taken as comfort girls for the Japanese soldiers. Like, there is mass genocide, mass suffering, mass imperialism that has happened all over
Throughout
the world
history, yeah.
for many, many, many years, to all ethnicities, races, religious groups, whatever it is. Nobody gets a monopoly on that. Nobody gets special treatment because of it, because every single person alive today has an ancestor at some point who suffered at the hands of an oppressor or who was the oppressor that oppressed people. You don't get to just suddenly, you're the ones who have suffered the most, so you get special treatment and nobody can ever say anything bad about you. I'm not even talking about one specific group. I'm talking about in general.
Yeah.
And people just completely forget that everyone, at some point, every country has a history of suffering, of slavery, of genocide, of imperialism, colonialism. It's happened all over the world, which is why the United States is such a unique country, because we abolished slavery
Very quickly.
Very, very quickly.
Yeah, a lot of people like to talk about this 400 years of, thank you. Good director. She's telling me to switch the camera. No, but a lot of people talk about, well, slavery existed in America, for 400 years. And it's like, well, hold on. If America was founded in 1776 and the Constitution wasn't ratified until, years later. So, and not only that, but after the Declaration of Independence, Vermont was the first state, almost like 6 months later, who abolished slavery in the first state to do it. So I don't like, no. America started in 1776 with the colonies, being founded. That's a different story. We could talk about that, but that wasn't America yet.
That's right.
But I want people to be precise when they're talking about history. But like you said, yeah, every group of people has suffered to some extent. But what you see now are there are certain groups of people who get to say my grief, my oppression, or my people's oppression is more worthy, or it's worse than this group or this other groups. And it's just weird that people are playing the oppression Olympics is what I want to call it. Yeah.
Yes, I use that term all the time.
I mean, we say abortion is worse than slavery, and we get hit over the head with that. We're some racist. I love it. I will. That is one of the bridges I will stand on.
I bet you Ye would agree with us.
100% he would.
I'm sure Fick would too.
Yes.
Yeah. I still get people on TikTok.
Even if they did, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
What do I care?
I still get people on TikTok who comment on random videos and they're like, "Oh, you're that girl who said abortion is worse than slavery." I was like, "That's me."
Oh,
Hello.
I get videos sent by, I think, like Amir sent us a video, someone else sent us a video. It's like, yo, have you seen this like big YouTuber reacting to your abortion is worse than slavery?
Good.
I said, no, I don't watch them.
Yeah.
Because no invitation has ever been sent out to be like, hey, I'm gonna make a video of myself reacting to your video. Do you want to talk about it? We've never gotten that invitation to explain.
I've had zero.
No.
Zero. And I've seen so many people send me so many reaction videos to I'm like, that's fine.
Thank you.
Give me free press. That's fine. But it is so intellectually dishonest, and it just shows how mentally handicapped you people are that you can't even sit down and say, what did you mean by that?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
You want to have a conversation?
We would tell you exactly what we mean by it.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of people, they're like, how could you say that? What did you mean? And I link the episode where we explained it, and I said, here it is. And they say, I'm not watching that.
Right, exactly. That's the big one. I'm not watching it.
Okay, all right. The mental capacity of a glazed donut. Then why did you ask me like what I meant by that? People are like, how could you say that? I'm like, here's my explanation.
Right.
I'm not watching that.
Yeah, my favorite one is the guy who, because I did watch this, I think it was on Instagram, it was an Instagram reel, is a very untalented singer who I guess you were talking about it, and he gets up, gets a piano, and he makes a song, and the piano's like, shut the fuck up, or something like that. Like, that's what you have to say, is shut the F up, because you have no thought process of your own other than to just sing shut the F up to us. Like, why don't you send out hey, explain what you mean. Counter it. I said on the guy, we'd love to have you on the show and tell me why you disagree. No, they wouldn't do it.
They're too scared. They're also too dumb.
Well, you know what we're going to do. So Gina and we should tell them because they're going to see it soon.
Are we? I don't know. Go ahead.
We should tell them.
Okay.
Gina and I are going to LA this weekend. We're both going at different times. Oh, can we say that?
Oh, yeah. I switched out with Emily Stanwyck. I was going to tell you before, but okay.
Wait, you're not going?
Not okay. No.
Wait,
I totally forgot to tell you. I was going to text you this morning, but I was like, I'll just tell him when I see him.
Or on the show. Well, tell me live on the show now, because I mean, oh man. Okay.
I know. So I swapped out with, I don't know if she's confirmed yet, so I'm not going to say, but Emily, who has been on our show before. Right. Yeah.
So I'll tell you what it was going. Okay.
Yeah. Just say what it is.
Well, I'm going to LA on Sunday. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a YouTube channel called Jubilee. They do these videos where one of them is called Middle Ground, another one is called I forget what they call it, but it's like, hey, guess who's the paleontologist of these people, or hey, guess who has the highest IQ, and they bring in people off the street, or not people off the street, but they cast people for it. Middle Ground, I think, are probably their most viewed videos, and what they'll do is they'll take, let's say an episode, it'll be trans men versus conservative men, and they'll put a prompt up and it'll say, I believe there's only two genders, and the people who agree step forward and they talk about it. Then the disagreeers come in and say why they disagree. So I was cast to be on a version of that where it is queer parents versus kids versus conservative parents, and I'm going to be one of the conservative parents. And I'm going to LA this weekend to go film that episode. And Gina was supposed to be, I guess, filming the day before me. We weren't going to go together. We were going to go at different times, but you were supposed to be there the day before me to do feminists versus anti-feminists.
Yeah, there was just a couple, I'll tell you off camera. There's just a couple things going on with my family that this weekend couldn't work out.
Dang.
Yeah, it was, but the staff for the crew, whatever, they were so nice about it. And so I helped them. I gave them like 4 potential replacements.
Okay.
And they already talked to Emily last night.
Okay.
And
so Emily might go.
Emily might go. She's out of everyone I sent, I think she's probably the best one, and she's very willing to go.
Emily's really is she big anti-feminist? I didn't know that.
She's huge.
Really?
She hates feminism.
Oh,
Yeah.
and that's good because she's like, she's a hippie doula.
She's a hippie doula.
So
she's pretty crunchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what? This actually makes it a little bit easier now. So what we can do is we can live watch my episode and talk about it, because what we were going to do is probably live watch both of our episodes at some point because they were going to come out at different times, but now we can just focus on one.
Yeah, easier.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally forgot to tell you. But I think, honestly,
darn it,
I think you're going to be better at that anyway than I am.
Well, here's what we need to do. We need to ask the nation for some pointers, because what I'm worried about is some hypothetical questions that will be posed. Like
definitely.
A prompt of something like, if my kid came out as LGBTQ, I would still love him. And I thought about that. Would I walk forward for that? I would love my kid no matter what. My daughter can go out and murder 10 people. It'd be very hard. She's 2 years old. But I would still love her. So of course, would I love her if she can't? But then I said, no, I'd probably hang back because I don't agree with the premise of the question. Why are you trying to sexualize my child in order to get an emotional reaction from me, out of a fake situation? It'd be different if I was still a conservative parent and I did have a kid who came out and identified that. Hey, talk about that.
Do you love your child who came out as queer?
Right, exactly. But would you? I don't want to play into that game. So I don't know if it's as wise to play into that game. Guys, what do you think in the comments?
It's a good question.
how should a conservative parent react to a hypothetical like that? And I think what I would do is I would probably stay back in the disagreeers, and I would come in and say, of course I would love my child, but I don't agree with the premise of the question.
Yeah, because it's weird to even ask about a 2-year-old girl having sex with a man later. Like, why are you even thinking about that? Let alone asking if a 2-year-old girl is going to want to have sex with a woman later on. It's like, why are you even talking about a 2-year-old having sex later?
The whole idea of the word queer, and I talked to a really, really, really good friend of mine, a blessed friend, one of my better friends who identifies as part of that community, a part of the queer community. I told him to go on the show. And I was like, well, would it be wise to ask them? Because it probably could be 2 or 3 people representing the queer parents.
Yeah.
She's like, would it be wise to ask them to define it? And she says, well, you're going to get a different you're going to get a different definition from each person. Like not all three of them are going to have the same exact definition of what a queer person is. Just like, three conservatives wouldn't have the same definition of what a conservative is. They're probably a little bit closer, but, and I said, it doesn't really make any sense. And then we started talking about the idea of acceptance. Like what I would do if one of the parents is like, well, why can't you just accept me? Or why can't you just accept your child if your child did come out like this? And I would say, I thought that this would be a good tactic, and I think we did talk about this. If I replied, "Do you accept Jesus Christ?"
Would you accept?
Would you accept Jesus Christ? If you came to me and told me, demanded your acceptance, or my acceptance of you, and I reply with, "Would you accept Jesus Christ?" I'm sure you'd be a little flummoxed, and I'm sure you might say no. So I say, what does that do? And I talked to somebody else that was saying, this whole idea of accepting one because of one's sexual orientation or, how one identifies is so weird because it's like me saying, I love rock music. You must accept me for that. It's like, I don't care what type of music I don't care, who you want to have sex with. I kind of do, but in order to accept you, I don't.
Well, I think what you're saying is that it is so weird and creepy and almost dystopian to base your entire identity off of your sexual preference.
Right.
And we talked about that when Christopher Yuan was here.
Sexual preference is a big no-no because it implies the idea that you have a choice, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, sexual attraction,
right.
let's say.
Yeah.
It's just so stupid that people base their entire identity off of it.
Yeah.
And that's when we talked about with Christopher, we were talking about how, even trickling down from the Enlightenment and individuality, individual choice, individual freedom. So then you have all these people who are told that their individual choices and their actions, even down to like their sexual choices, that's their identity.
Yeah.
But it's like, why on earth would you define your entire identity by your sexual attraction?
I know I'm going to get met with, so you don't agree that I should exist. And it's like, what do you mean?
What do you mean you do exist?
First, you do exist. I'm not talking to a figment of my imagination. I know you do exist. I would, of course, I think I would stand behind your right to existence. I don't agree with, let's say, your ideology or your sort of gender expression, whatever the hell that means, but I don't deny you the right to exist. It's such weird that they play with language this way. And it's just such a weird thing, like queer. What does that even mean? I think, and my friend brought up a really good point. She was like, you know what? Queer people have existed forever. You look, and I was like, yeah, the Roman Empire, like all these type of people. I don't still understand what the definition of it is, but yeah, people on sort of the outskirts of, heteronormative culture. I get that. But she was like, it wasn't such a big deal before. Like these people were able to exist.
That's what Regis says too.
They lived their lives. But my friend who is part of this queer community, she cannot stand Gen Z's, input and stance on it because she's like, guys, you're giving these people a reason why not to like you and why not to accept you because you won't shut up about it. Like you kind of, if you're talking about like soft conversion, you know what I mean? If we weren't rammed over the head with it all the time and, be demanded of our acceptance and, then it might be a little bit different, but still, I mean, I don't agree with it. I don't know how this YouTube episode is going to go. I would like some pointers in the comments.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. I think you're going to do really well. I think you would do better in that kind of setting than I would because the person, one of the people that is in the feminist category, it's like, I told my husband, I was like, I don't even want to look at her.
Right.
I don't even want, because I don't even think there is middle ground with a person like that person specifically. Yeah,
that's what I was saying. It's like, I don't want middle ground with a lot of these people. So the name of the show is just, I think it's sort of like a, what's the word? It's a very vanilla name for the show because they don't want hot takes. They do like controversial discussions, but I feel like I might throw the word groomer out there and that might get me kicked out.
Well, you just have to, they'll just edit it.
Yeah.
I was talking to
right.
Sab about it and Sab, she texted me, she says, I don't trust their editing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's interesting.
That's a good point.
So, the things are going to be heavily edited. So like if I were you to say anything and everything and they'll just edit it out anyway.
Which is kind of a bummer. And I know, listen, as a conservative parent, I think one of the most important things that I want to relay to the queer parents who I'm sure, listen, it doesn't like queer, whatever, like, a parent is a parent, and there probably should be some ideals and some ways to live by that everyone should be in agreement with. And one of those, but one of those is the idea of boundaries. And I think that a conservative parent, I think one of the most important parts of being a parent is to set up boundaries.
Yes. Well, children definitely need boundaries. I mean, children actually thrive on boundaries and discipline. It's like my mom used to always say this, and I never really understood it, but I think it's going to make more sense to me as my daughter gets older. So my mom used to be like an assistant teacher at a primary school when I got a little bit older and I was going to school. She kind of went back to work, and she used to always tell me, she says, when children are disciplined and they need to be disciplined, they're relieved afterwards. Like, it sounds strange,
so?
but she always used to tell me, like, when you discipline a child who is misbehaving, like once the dust settles and once they, are done being upset about it, you can see a relief in their face, because children want boundaries and discipline. They want that because that's what frames their whole view of the world. And if they're not disciplined or they don't have boundaries, it's a very scary thing. You're in this chaotic open space, so you don't know what's right or what's wrong or what's up and what's down. And that's a scary place to be in. Yeah. And so children need and desire discipline and boundaries. And I think adults do too, which is why I think that it's such a relief to return to ancient Christianity, because there's so much discipline. There are a lot of boundaries. You know exactly where the church stands on everything. Right. There's no questions. You don't have to interpret anything. It is a relief. And our hyper individualized society does not like that, because we've been taught that the king is individual freedom. When in reality, like, are you really happy chasing your own personal individual desires every single day? No, because you become a slave to your own fleshly desires rather than being a servant of God.
I don't know if you saw a story that I posted on my personal Instagram, but it's saying, it's like, I don't think you reach the title of dad until you've wanted to go home and flog yourself after the way you've yelled at your own daughter. I don't know if you saw that, but like, I haven't seen that. We tried to, our daughter is a very, what did our doctor call her? She said a very spirited child, I think is. So our daughter just does not sit still unless, and we don't like, but, put a little bit of TV on. If we just need to do stuff, like put a little bit of TV on, she sits there. She loves it. She dances there. It's the cutest thing. Like, my heart fills with so much joy when, I'm cleaning up the dishes and Carly's either like baking more or doing something. And I look over and I see a little head bopping up and down on the couch, dancing to, Rosie's Rules or Bubble Guppies or whatever. But we went out to dinner, and I mean, she was great for the first 15 minutes, but after, she's like, yeah, I had enough. Guess what? I'm going to make your dinner suck now.
Oh my God.
And it's just, these toddlers have these energy levels that I don't know what it is. And it sucks, because even the other day, she was just zooming around, not listening. I'm like, hey, don't stand on that. What does she do? She goes to stand on it, looks at me laughing, standing on that. I'm like, hey, don't stand on that. I'll take her down. And then 2 minutes later, hey, don't stand on that. What did I just say? Take her down. And then, 2 minutes later, hey, do me a favor, don't stand on it. And my voice starts to get a little bit louder. And I say to my wife, I want to slap her so hard so that she gets the message. And she's like, well, A, don't do that. And B, that's not going to do anything. I'm like, you're absolutely right. I know it's not going to do anything. But it's just like the level of like, wanting to like physically discipline your child. But what hurt me the most was not like wanting to do that and be like, oh, Mike, you never hit, which is true. I would never spank her. We talk. That's one of the things that, I was raised on being spanked. I don't know if you were raised on being spanked. Carly and I, she was like, we're not going to spank our daughter.
You guys made that decision not to.
And I was like, I get that. She's a little girl, growing up 3 little boys get spanked. But one of the reasons that I get that, because the more of the verbal sort of discipline on a little girl from a father. I did something. I'm willing to share this. My wife didn't do it. I did it. I'm willing to share this because I feel so bad about it. Like, as soon as it happened, I wanted to kill myself. It's like, you are so mean. So what happened was, I was trying to get my daughter into the car seat, and this is while she was having this tantrum. She was running around this restaurant. She had hit her head, and I was like, oh my God, I took her to the bathroom to quiet her down. She eventually did quiet her down, but when we were leaving, she just wouldn't like stop doing the tantrum. And I was putting her in the car seat, and she said something about one of her stuffed animals. And I said, I did something where I took it and I said, no, F this or F that, no. And I closed the door, and like when I closed the door, I heard a little high-pitched kind of like cry start. And I sat in the front seat, and like, I think my wife saw it, but my head was like, I just hung my head, and I was like, I don't care what she's doing, but the way that I reacted to that is horrible. I want to go home and I want to whip myself and try and mirror the pain that I just caused my daughter onto myself. Because as parents, we get so wrapped up in how our kids make us feel about something that we really start to forget about. A, they can't control it. 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, they don't know what they're doing. And 3, they don't know why they're being yelled at. So when I yelled at my daughter, she was probably so confused, and she just heard like the anger in my voice, and that's probably what caused her to cry. So, it's just one of these things that we reflect on after, where my wife and I sit down and she tells me, these the toddlers especially, like, you may think that they're doing this to you on purpose. You may think that they know what you're saying, but they honestly don't. Their brains they're not there yet. And they do things because if it makes them feel good, they do it. They don't do it to annoy you. Sometimes they might do it to get a reaction from you. They don't know that they're going to get a hard reaction. And a lot of people that I know were not physically abused by their parents, but like the emotional abuse. And I heard about this story from an exorcist who I think was in a parish in Indiana. It was like one of the few exorcists living and working in the United States, that he had met a guy and was brought to by the family of this guy because they said he had to have been possessed by demons. They didn't know what was going on. It's been going on for years. So he sat and talked to this guy. And he didn't just do like an exorcism that you see in movies, I command you by the Father, Son, Jesus, leave this. It was almost kind of like therapy sessions that this exorcist would perform in this guy. And he found out through him and through other families that the father of this guy was a very, very emotionally abusive person, and that he had damned his son in fits of anger, like saying, God damn you, or God damn you, or like, damn you to hell, or so, to the kid. So that opened up that child to demonic possession, and it was caused by the father. And I was saying, wow, I mean, this is a really, really good story to not take your aggression or your anger out on your kids, or to even talk poorly about your kids, because it opens them up to some really, really big issues down the line.
Yeah.
That was tough. That was a tough dinner for me to have. And, sometimes toddlers will be a handful.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to those years. I mean, our daughter is very, I don't know what's the word. She's stubborn for sure. Mm-hmm. She's very stubborn, and she's like got the same thing as, don't touch that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Then you have to remove her because she's only a year old. But
yeah,
I mean,
there's no one 2-year-old who goes, oh, you don't want me to touch that? I'm so sorry.
I don't know.
What can I do to
I just saw a baby who's only 3 weeks younger than my daughter, and the parents told her, don't touch that. And she stopped. It was on video, just stopped and didn't touch it. And went like this. And I'm like, yeah, that's not my daughter. Every child's different.
The exception.
Every child's different,
Yeah.
And my husband and I talked a lot about spanking. Like, he and I both were spanked. Mm-hmm. I asked my mom about it when I was pregnant. She said the first time I was spanked is when I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I lied. I lied about something.
Okay.
My mom gave me money to buy pencils or pens at school. And I came back and I told her that I used the money to buy them, but then the truth came out that I bought something else, like something that I wanted, and I got spanked for it.
Yeah.
And my husband, he and his older brother were rambunctious boys, and they were spanked. And I don't think that spanking is blanketly bad. I think that it can be very useful, but I think it really depends on the child. There are some kids who don't need to be spanked.
Oh yeah, 100%.
There are some kids who need to be spanked, especially when I got a little bit older too. Like, I had an attitude, I needed to be spanked. And it was one of those things where later in life, like, I was thankful for it because I was disciplined. There is definitely a fine line when it comes to spanking. Like, it's easy to cross that line and then take out physical aggression on your children.
100%,
Obviously that is wrong. But I don't know what it's going to be like with our daughter when she gets older. Who knows? You know, it's like, it's so easy when you're expecting a child or when your child is very young. It's so easy to make predictions about what you're going to do with your kid when they get older, and you're going to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that. You just don't.
It happens.
You just don't know.
No, I don't think I could ever spank our daughter, just because with girls, I feel like with girls it might be a little bit different.
Me.
Yeah, no,
always mom.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
Yeah, and my husband says he'll never spank our daughter either.
I think that's why I'm trying to think about this Jubilee episode. How are they going to approach the questions? Because it's queer parents versus kids versus conservative parents. So I'm wondering if the kids are going to...
Wait, there are kids?
Yeah. So I'm wondering if the kids are going to present questions to the sides and then talk about how they would approach it. So how would a queer parent approach it? How would a conservative parent approach it? That might be a little bit different, because before it's just two groups.
Do you know who the other participants are?
I don't know who anybody is. I don't know. We're going to find out.
Speaking of kids, do you want to?
Yeah, that'll be the last thing that we want to talk about.
Balenciaga?
Sure. Well, I mean, let's see. Ye talked about it, and he talked about it almost in a way that it's kind of like a psyop and a distraction. He's like, everyone who's talking about Balenciaga, blah blah blah, it's a distraction. First of all, if you're on Instagram, you're adding to the problem in general. He's like, if you watch porn, he's like, you can't have this moral high ground of condemning Balenciaga, but you still watch porn, and what that does is that just furthers the circle of abuse and of pedophilia, because the girl who is performing on a porn channel, either she's been abused, currently is abused, and she's someone's daughter at some point, so you're practicing pedophilia. So I was like, oh, this is very interesting. Clearly what Balenciaga doing is demonic, evil, and terrible. But when he was calling out the moral compass of people who were calling out Balenciaga, I was like, oh, this makes sense. What do you want to say about
that does make sense to me, because you definitely, if you watch porn, you don't get to say anything. I forgot who tweeted this, but they were like, if you watch porn, you can, Bryson said this.
Okay.
Bryson said, if you watch porn, then you can keep your mouth shut about Balenciaga because you're participating in sex trafficking. But the whole thing about, I mean, have you gone down the rabbit hole?
I've only really listened to Michael Knowles talk about it, your videos kind of talking about it. I haven't gone down the rabbit hole because I don't want to open myself up to that. Yeah,
it's really, I mean, we all know that there is a unique pedophile problem in Hollywood, but this whole Balenciaga campaign really opened up a can of worms. You get down to the stylist, you get down to Balenciaga creative director, you get down to the parent company of Balenciaga, which is called Kering, Kering. The CEO of that company is the husband of Salma Hayek, some French asshole billionaire who owns Christie's auction house, which also auctions off child sex abuse art. It's just a really, really sick rabbit hole. But what's really upsetting is that in our society today, the horn guy from January 6th, he got 3 years in federal prison. There are currently pro-life activists who are potentially facing 11 years in prison for protesting outside of an abortion clinic. And there are currently thousands and thousands of pedophiles, child sex abusers who have raped children, minors, even as young as 8 to 10 years old, and they're just being released from prison after just a couple of months, or they're getting sentences like less than a year. And it's just so disgusting that you have all of these people who are sexually abusing children, and it's like nobody's doing anything about it. And there were some people who are like, at this point, it's safe to say that these high-end fashion brands, I think they're just fronts for sex trafficking. They're just fronts for child trafficking at this point, because they're sending out very clear messages. Did you see, I think I sent you the video that Andrew Tate did.
Yes. Yeah. So I like that a lot.
I liked that a lot. What Andrew Tate said is, when you're a Satanist, we're not just throwing around the word Satanist. These are people who actually are like, they worship Satan. Yes. They're part of the satanic church. Yep. And what is the motto of Satanism? Do you know what it is?
Do what you will.
Do what you will. Do what thou wilt, or
and
whatever it is.
And that's what, like, a loose translation from either like Latin or whatever it is when you take Balenciaga and you separate it.
Apparently,
that's what
Taylor Marshall said that's not the actual Latin, because I thought it was, because you type it into Google Translate, it comes out to do what you want. Yeah. But Taylor Marshall, he says, obviously Balenciaga is wrong. I don't agree with it. He says, however, as a Latin scholar, it doesn't actually.
Yeah, but no, that's what I know. Yeah.
But whatever. The whole point, what was I saying? High-end fashion brands.
Oh, no, we were talking the Satanic Church.
Satanic Church.
What Andrew Tate and
so Andrew Tate explains that when you're a Satanist or you're part of the Satanic Church, you have to be upfront about what you're doing.
Yes.
And you have to make it known. You have to be clear. This is, we're trafficking children. We sexually abuse children. We worship Satan. Yes. We worship ourselves. Right. And he says, once you put that out there, according to the Satanic Church, you are absolved. Right. Because you have made it clear that this is what you're doing. So you are no longer going to be punished for it. Yeah. So, and then he gives the example, like if I sell apples and I put the sign up that says apples for sale, and if I poison the apples, but I don't tell you, then I'm going to be punished for that. Right. Karmic retribution. Right. He uses the term karmic retribution. However, if you put a sign up that says poison apples for sale, and then someone eats it and they die, then there's no karmic retribution for you in the satanic church and Satanism or whatever it is. So he says that that's what people are actually doing, is they're exposing themselves to avoid karmic retribution.
It wouldn't play the video. They took it down.
Which is that the Andrew Tate one?
That's the Andrew Tate one. Yeah. They took it down.
He's been crushing it lately online. He's doing
your tweet. The tweet that you sent me about Andrew Tate. Sorry, about Andrew Tate helping more men than conservative men help each other is a very, I mean,
I'm telling you, I'm like,
listen, there are things that we know people don't, but we'll end on this. What is the deal with this facade of certain conservative men trying to promote themselves as being like the archetype of alpha male, sigma male, or whatever? Like when I think everybody probably has his own subjective view on, what a real man is or whatever. And I have my opinion. A real man is someone who is honest, a protector, and a provider. That's really it. If you do those three things, you are a man to me. It doesn't matter how much weight you lift, how well you can shoot guns, how much money you have. If you have those three qualities, you are a real man. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start, the men's group. But why is it that so many conservatives have this portrayal, sort of this kind of meme caricature about what a real man is, and they don't even follow it themselves?
They do the same thing with trad women. It's both sides are a caricature, because no, it doesn't make you a man to deadlift 2 times your body weight. It
makes you pretty cool.
It makes you, I don't even want to use the word strong, because you're strong in one sense, but then you see these guys run and they tear their ACL because their bodies are all effed up because they're completely reversing the natural movement pattern of the body. That's a different discussion.
I think running's gay.
But the whole point is that it has become a caricature of what it means to be a man. It's that meme of that Chad guy. I love the memes. I love the whole Chad thing. I love that. But it's been taken to the point where people will literally look at a guy and be like, "You're not a real man. Look how skinny you are."
Right.
What does that have to do?
That's one of the
with
reasons why I got pissed off at this follower of ours who talked about Nick like that, and I was just like, dude, what? Why would you bring up his looks to me? That's so weird.
It is weird. It's weird. And this is the flip side of that too, is the obsession, the caricature of the trad woman who never has a voice and always stays in the home, never does any kind of work. This is a caricature. Do you think that women were like that 1,000 years ago? Women had to hustle to provide for their family as well, the family unit. And so there's a caricature of both men and women that it's almost the extreme answer to what the left has done to masculinity and femininity.
You got to be about it. You really do have to be about it before you talk about it, because,
right?
I got to tell you, Gina, this show has changed my life completely. It really has. When we first started the show, I intook porn. I didn't want to say anything. You talked about it, I think, on our first episode. You were talking about porn. And I sat there, and I think I said, well, I would be a hypocrite if I say I didn't. I think I remember saying something like that.
Yeah. Do you remember in our first episode what you said about Jesus too? I said I referred to something in scripture, and you said that's the only Jesus reference I'll allow you. You only get one Jesus reference an episode.
Oh, that's because you were more in your Protestant way of they like to do that using Jesus as a very the name, the overuse of the name is a very
I remember what I was saying. I was referring to the way that Jesus talked about children.
Yeah.
And you were like, no, you can only reference Jesus once. And I was
now I like Christ. I say well, let's talk about Christ. I think we do Christ, because I don't even think the evangelicals or Protestants, they don't even say Jesus Christ. They'll just say not the way that I hear it.
They say Jesus Christ all the time.
I hear more Jesus. I saw this weird
Christ too.
Yeah. I saw this weird thing where I sent it to Brian of Catholicism. I was like, what is this? And it was people did I send that to you? The one-on-one people DMing it, and it's just they're praying over each other one-to-one, and it's very evangelical thing.
I didn't see it.
It's very weird. Maybe I'll throw it up while I'm talking about it, but I'm like, look, that's weird, isn't it? Just people kind of huddling and praying over each other.
Was it some sort of
I'll show it to you.
What's the word? It starts with an R, not evangelism. Revival. Was it a revival?
Kind of like revivalist.
That's the word I
sent it to him. So it's we gathered young people in our house to worship God. He showed up. Can you see it?
I hope it's not going to get copyright.
No, I don't think so.
So they're playing.
I'm gonna
someone's
put it right
playing
here.
a guitar and. Are they dancing?
No, they're praying over each other. It's a very weird thing.
I mean, yeah.
Anyway, I'm getting pretty far from what I'm talking about.
Weird.
What I want to talk about is the show changed my life a bunch, and it was a bunch of things where I was saying some stuff, and I think Carly was watching an episode, and she was like, Mike, come on, you're saying this, but you kind of do this. I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So it's opened my eyes a lot to, if I'm really going to preach something, I'm really going to, put a message out there, I better be about it, because I know some people, the same people that talk a whole lot of mess and that don't live up to it. And it's not a judgment of those people, but it's it's just dangerous.
Well, it's the reason that we're in the mess that we're in now, because you have a lot of people that talk and talk and talk and they don't do anything.
Yeah.
And so obviously nothing's going to change. That's why, like, Andrew Tate, he's a Muslim. That's not good. But the dude does exactly what he says. And he is one of the very few guys at that level of fame, fame isn't the right word, or influence or whatever, who actually takes the time to respond to young men.
Yeah.
And who is actually, I see so many videos, and nobody can tell me that these are all like fake videos being shared on the internet of men who show how their life has changed a lot because of Andrew Tate.
In a very Jordan Peterson kind of way too.
You know what I mean?
Jordan Peterson, I think he put up some behind the scenes photos of that Exodus episode that he was doing. And I said, hey, Jordan, when are you putting out the message to Jews video? Because remember how he put up a message to Christians?
Was that you? Did he respond to you and say you're an evil rat?
No. That was someone else on Twitter.
But
No.
they basically said the same thing that you did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then
I did see that. Yeah,
and he
I don't
responded
remember.
and said you're an evil rat.
Oh, that's right. No, but he made a message to Muslims and he made a message to Christians. Like, why?
Yeah. What was the message?
It was just like, how we get to be better as a people kind of thing. I don't know.
He didn't send one to Jews.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and then someone pointed that out the same way that you did.
Yeah.
And he retweeted and said, you're an evil rat.
I saw that after the
and
fact.
everyone, when he said that, there were a lot of people that were tweeting. They were like, is Jordan Peterson the guy that he once was?
I don't know.
I honestly think that after he came back from his, whatever you want to call it, his illness, his psychotic break, addiction, I just don't think he ever came back the same.
One person said to me that he has a real problem with Jordan because of the addiction. He's like, I think his addiction fueled a lot, didn't necessarily go away. I think it's part of his sort of ego now. And I said, I really don't know too much about that. But I mean, yeah, there are certainly things that I agree with him about. Definitely things that I disagree with him about.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's sad that he's just not at the level that he was
We should get him
before.
on the show. We should get Jordan Peterson on the show just so that I could do the impression.
There's
from
no way
him.
he would come on the show.
No.
No way.
Oh, he's owned by DW. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, isn't it?
It's a shame because someone like Michael Knowles just, he gets it.
Dude.
Every time I listen to him.
Well, no. See, Michael Knowles has gone on other people's podcasts, but he won't come on ours. And listen, I think you guys should spam Knowles' DMs, whatever.
It's not going to work.
Go on the IDG podcast. He should. But also, he was on the Pints with Aquinas thing. But the funniest thing this whole thing it's a win for the culture because he's making fun of Benjamin Netanyahu. He takes out a net and he takes out a Yahoo and he says Netanyahu. He puts a little voice on and talks about Bibi Netanyahu. I think it's hilarious. I think it's great for the culture. But the funniest thing he said is Ben Shapiro's just mad because Kyrie Irving
wouldn't
didn't sign his basketball.
Lol. He was reading off all those Owen Benjamin jokes. That was so great.
Yeah, that's right. And he called Chappelle out too.
Yeah, he did.
Says Chappelle's not a Christian. Chappelle doesn't believe in God, and Chappelle steals jokes. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, he steals jokes from Owen Benjamin, right?
Yeah.
Is that what he said?
Well, that's a big claim that Owen has made over the years.
Isn't Owen in this area?
No, I think he lives in Idaho.
Who am I thinking of then? Someone around here.
I don't know. Are you thinking John Crist is a comedian who lives in the Nashville
I would
area?
like to get him on too.
Yeah, he's funny.
But he's not going to come on. Well, how funny was that video when he was talking about the mega church?
Yeah, that was great.
That was so good.
Yeah, it's a win for the culture, I think. And listen, Ye himself has said, he says, I haven't announced that I'm running for president yet. I haven't announced any of this. But he's like, I think we need to bring Christ back and make him number one.
Why is he making Ye 24 merch?
I don't know. It's cool, though. Is that his logo that looks kind of like a swastika that he made? Or is that just kind of something that's been put out there?
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Because it's Ye, but it kind of looks like it has like the 45-degree angle kind of thing. It's very interesting.
Oh, yeah, that one. I think that is his.
I told Brian, I was like, I'd go to the rallies.
Because Fick was wearing that sweatshirt.
Yeah. Oh, whoa.
Yeah, did you see that little video? Fick was
of
like
him, yes.
in a parking garage.
Yeah, kind of TMZ'd.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I don't, like I said before on another episode, the one that I put forward the most is Jesus Christ. I don't even, want to call myself a Christian nationalist in a way because it's like, which nation do I represent? I don't know. I'm American. Yeah, but I'm kind of over the political mayhem that is American politics. And so
I am a nationalist though.
Yes.
I am a nationalist.
I think I am, right? Yeah. I'm an American nationalist. I'm a Christian national. See, that's the thing. Like, I understand what Christian nationalism means. I understand it. I don't know if I would necessarily label myself as that, though. But I definitely am. I would call myself a patriot, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
A nationalist, yeah.
Yeah.
Either one. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
scared
attached.
of words.
I'm not attached or scared of either term.
Say goodbye, Gina.
Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye, bye.